millions of people, myself included, delved into this universe and saw a place to actually be accepted. It just feels like a betrayal of the worst kind to see not only a contradiction to these wonderful stories, but what is quite literally a front to fund, well, how I perceive it anyway, just a front to fund a movement of hate.
Hello and welcome to the podcast, another episode of Clearly Overthinking. I'm your host, Adam Harper, and today I'm introducing my dear friend Jenna, and we're going to be talking about a few nerdy things in the worlds of Marvel, Star Wars, and Harry Potter. We're going to be talking about when we first started to explore these universes and who some of our favorite characters are, and why it means so much to us and how it's become an integral part of our lives, and some controversies that are mixed in with these universes. All that coming up soon. I hope y'all are excited for this. I know I am. Let's get started. Well, welcome Jenna to the podcast. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I am just so excited because I've been looking forward to recording this with you. And just to briefly introduce yourself, tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Well, I am Jenna. I was born and raised in North Texas, spent several years in my past life in New York City working as a fashion designer, and came back home. Now I work with my bestie, my work bestie at VMLY&R as an experience designer. Let's see, I am a former band nerd and always fangirl. I am a Slytherin, an Airbender, a Pink Ranger, a mutant, an elf of Rivendell. I'm all the things. And I'm just stoked that I get to be on this episode of your podcast where I can just talk about all the things that I love.
I freaking love that so much. I think out of all those things, I was like, oh, she's like naming off all these different universes and all these different like groups or tribes or categories of people and such. I think I took the Harry Potter test online, and I think I'm Ravenclaw last I remember. So
That's awesome.
yeah. I don't know what nation I would be though in the Avatar: The Last Airbender nation. You said you're an Airbender?
Yeah, I'm definitely Airbender.
I think I would probably be Water Nation, like
That's
Water
cool.
Tribe, because I feel
Go
like
with the flow.
yeah. I feel like I relate to Qatar's character a lot.
Oh yeah, he's
Well,
an inspiration.
exactly. And as you mentioned, yes, we initially met at work, but we've since connected on so many levels of nerd and fandom and such. And so I'm
Mhm.
so excited to be able to discuss these three universes with you. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited. Let's go ahead and get into it. So with
Okay.
Marvel specifically, I'll go ahead and ask you like this first question, and I want to hear your initial thoughts on like when did you first start exploring the Marvel universe?
Right. Well, I think, it just started after school, the animated series of Spider-Man and X-Men. So I just watched those every day after school. And then, there was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and X-Men movies, with Hugh Jackman, and then Iron Man like entered the fold, and it was just like continuous. It's always just been there. But I didn't really explore further, but I was always like one of the first ones to see the movies. Like when I was a kid, I was just always excited to go to see those superhero movies. Just loved them. And the X-Men. Oh my God, so much fun.
I feel like I initially started watching a few of the first few movies when they first came out. I remember specifically watching like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man when I was in, I think, middle school or high school or something like that. In middle school specifically, I read more so the comic books, specifically the Spider-Man comic books.
That's
I really was,
awesome.
yeah, I was really drawn to it. Honestly, it was fun to explore that specific world. And I remember my librarian at the time, she would always be so sweet in letting me check out more than I was like technically allowed to, because I think there was like a limit on how many books you could check out from the library at a time, so that way they, people
Was this
wouldn't use
the
it.
public library?
It was our school library,
You had
so
comics in the school library?
yeah, I mean,
No way. If,
it,
oh my gosh, if we had those, I probably would have read the comics, but I was never a comic reader.
oh really? Oh my gosh.
No.
She, I think, recognized that and saw that I was like really interested in this one section, and I will like take credit for being the person who was helping to expand that collection of comic books,
I
because she
love
was like
that.
ordering new comics for me to read. So I appreciate her, and I appreciate just like the dynamic of being able to do
Yeah.
that. I'm curious then, as we explore these three universes and have just like these similar questions for each, why has like what important role has Marvel played in your life?
Well, it's just all consuming right now, isn't it? There's no lack of content, which helps someone like me who, when I become obsessed with a franchise, I just want to dive head in and get immersed and inspired. Like I will watch something over and over and over again because it's like the only form of content that I can get at that time. And it's just such a wonderful distraction that is actually just really so important to us millennials, like me as a generation. It's very important to get distracted these days.
I feel you on that. And
Yeah.
kind of branching off that word of, maybe like a distraction from the world around us. Like I felt captivated by the stories and
Mhm.
the characters specifically. I always felt really partial towards Marvel over, let's say, DC Comics.
Mhm.
That might be some controversy
Oh
potentially with some others,
no.
but
Yeah.
um, I
Start a
just
war.
felt, yeah, literally. I don't know. I just always felt more relatable to Marvel and the content that they were providing. For me, as you said, it's kind of like a distraction, kind of an escape, kind of a way to fantasize about like the what if possibilities of our own universe and such. I think that's what for me drew me in a little bit more is I think with like DC comics, a lot of the cities and places and locations are, from what I understand, pretty fictitious. Like they're based off of, I guess, real world areas. Like even in the movies, like they filmed most of the like Batman films in big cities and such. But
Mhm.
with Marvel, I appreciate that it is very relatable because they're actually like in the city of New York, or they're
Mhm. Mhm.
exploring, other places that we are familiar with, even though they're expanding
Right.
out more into the galaxy and such. But um,
Right.
yeah, I just feel like it's more important to me now because it is like more relatable to a day-to-day life, even though it's like kind of yeah, as you mentioned, like an escape too.
Yeah, and no shade to DC at all, because if we're going to get technical, I think what got me into the superhero genre in general was Batman. Definitely Batman. I
Mm,
I
hmm.
I watched, can I curse on this?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I watched the shit out of the animated series, and also the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman movies. Like, I grew up with that. They were so perfect to me. So if anything got it started, it was Batman. It was DC for me.
I definitely do like just branching a bit off on DC. Um,
Hmm.
Superman is, I think he's my favorite. Green Lantern too. I like the characters and I love the comic books. I will say that like the cinematic universe I struggle with sometime with, but I think that's
Hmm.
why I picked Marvel more so than DC. But no,
Yeah.
no, no, no shade or anything to any DC lovers out there. I do see all the movies. I do, enjoy the characters and such. Um,
Yeah.
I just love Marvel more. So.
Yeah, I think the MCU, Kevin Feige, did a better job of executing these movies and the TV series, more so than from the DC side, unfortunately. But
Well, I think
um,
that's a great segue into a point of controversy, specifically
yeah.
within this universe. But the point that I want to make that I feel like is kind of controversial that well, at least is a point to discuss and whether or not we agree or not on this, or if there's other people who do or not. From what I've read, there's a lot of like comic book purists in the
Mm,
Marvel world who aren't happy with what's happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and would
yep.
prefer to see things being more portrayed more accurately to the comic books on screen. In my opinion, I feel like this is the classic tale of the book is always better than the movies,
Yes,
oftentimes.
absolutely. I
And
totally agree.
yeah, okay, okay. And I just feel like I'm just grateful to be seeing these characters on screen regardless, which is also kind of how I feel about like the DC world in a way. But I'm curious to know like what your thoughts are on that.
I totally agree. I think that I totally get it, right? Like I've read a book or a book series and tried to see their interpretation on screen and been disappointed, right? It's a really difficult thing to do, and only a few instances have been able to achieve it. But the issue is that people get so they feel such loyalty to the comics. And I guess like what needs to be done is like looking at the MCU in and of itself as just inspired by the comics. Like it does take storylines, it switches around the characters. A lot of things are a little bit different and confusing and not tried and true. But I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to cater to a new audience, people like me, and they're trying to cater to the true fans, the comic book, enthusiasts, where they're not just giving you the same content but in a different medium, but they're actually just trying to make something new out of the amazing stories that came out of the comics.
Mm, I very much agree with you on that. And I think I feel like it's important to appreciate that fact that it is something new based on. I mean, that's why they say in the very beginning of all the credits, like this is based on.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I do appreciate that they are trying to bring in as much as they can and be inspired as much as they can be and to by the comics and such. But yeah,
Right,
I
because like as a person who's never read the comics, there are Easter eggs apparent in every single, movie, animated series, and TV show that's on Disney Plus that I will never catch on to. But that's like a little nod to the comic book fandom that keeps them engaged and says like, we see you too. Don't worry, we see you.
I'm seeing a lot of people online who are claiming that the MCU is becoming too woke and that
Ugh.
it's losing its vision or path, its audience as it explores more of the multiverse. And my thoughts on this are, while I do agree that it's getting more and more intricate with the storytelling, I am kind of like here for the ride and support all their attempts in diversity and to branch off of the diverse aspect of it. Granted, this is like Hollywood that we're talking about, and there are still elements that I feel like are being censored in a way. And,
Hmm.
one
Hmm.
example of that is with like the Eternals with the on-screen kiss between I think they were both gay, I believe. So with the gay
Hmm.
couple, I believe Disney kept that in the film and they were Disney and Marvel kept that in the film and so that made it so it couldn't be shown in certain countries where homosexuality is outlawed and such. So I will take those, wins, whether however
Right.
major or minor they might be. But there are still issues with them trying to be diverse in a way, like in their advertising specifically, let's say for whether it's Marvel or any other production like Star Wars or such like that. I just remember them kind of adjusting their marketing campaigns to highlight certain
Hmm.
characters over others in different markets, specifically like markets overseas where, it's more accepted to look and appear a certain way. So anyway, all of that is to say, I appreciate the efforts that they are trying to make diverse in the diverse realm of trying to include and show more people in all aspects of
Hmm.
life. But I don't know. This one's hard for me too because I feel like my opinion about
Yeah,
it is still kind of fluctuating. But like, do you get where I'm coming from?
absolutely. I mean, I think I did hear that about, oh, Marvel's becoming too woke. And Usually when I see that, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, and I brush it off. And honestly, like that's one of the things that is really getting me excited for this new, I guess you would call it a new generation of Avengers, is that they are so diverse and they are becoming more inclusive. Like, Miss Marvel, the Eternals, Shang-Chi, Namor, Ironheart, even She-Hulk, where it was very, very feminist. It was surprising because it was more so feminist than I thought it would be. And I love it. It's really exciting to see. I wanted to see more. It makes like the whole universe itself, the world building, more like richer, more deep, more fascinating. And it's real. That's life. I would just want to see more.
I completely agree with you, and I'm glad that like my ramble of my opinion made sense in that way. Because yeah, I feel like you perfectly summarized how I feel about that as well. Because it's exciting to see the worlds that we love reflect the positive sides of our own world, and to embrace
Hmm.
that more and to channel that more.
Like the first several movies of Marvel were great, but in terms of, diversity and inclusivity, like it's lacking. I mean, they're great, but I'm really excited to see what they make of this new generation of Avengers.
Moving along in the Marvel universe, what or who is a favorite character of yours? And perhaps like, are there any life lessons that you've learned from this character, or what have you kind of applied in your own life because of this character?
So I'm a tried and true Spider-Man fan. Uh, I think seeing Peter Parker as this shy, geeky kid and suddenly, thrust into the role of a superhero, I just love it. He doesn't really change either. He may have like some wayward moments, but deep down he's still that humble, shy, but sassy kid. Um, and like, who didn't watch or read that and think that there's hope for the rest of us, you know?
Definitely. And what's so funny is that Maya also is Spider-Man as well. I would have to say a very, very, very close second is Wanda
Oh
as
my God,
well.
me too. I was gonna say more recently, the Scarlet Witch. Like, oh, she's so badass, and I just love her.
I cannot agree more. And what's interesting is just the dynamic between both of these characters, because as you said, like Spider-Man,
Hmm.
a big reason why he's one of my favorite characters. And also from what I understand, he's also Stan Lee's favorite character that he ever like drew slash created and such. Um, it's just the story arc of his character and how relatable he is, how it's kind of like the underdog, and we always love a
Hmm.
good underdog story. And I think everybody can kind of see a little bit of themselves in him in some way. And I also feel that way about Wanda, where it's similar, and maybe like, they both have tragedy in their life, learning
Hmm.
to not only embrace whatever power they're given, but then also like, how do they continue to move forward in life? It's interesting because if you think about it, the dynamic between the two, Spider-Man's very much, portrayed as the hero, and Wanda is
Hmm.
kind of like an anti-hero in a way, at least from what I've seen. Like, she's trying to figure out her way in the most recent multimedia in the MCU, but in the comic book, she's definitely like, kind of a touch and
Yeah,
go, kind of
like
unknown.
diametrically opposed paths. Or I don't know if that's the right phrase, but yeah, they definitely took the tragedy in their lives and went separate ways, like just did separate things. But granted, Wanda was influenced by the Darkhold. It wasn't her fault.
True. You're referring to like in the MCU specifically.
Yeah, I don't know any of her other media presences
From
presence.
From what I've seen in the comic books, it's interesting how they translated her being like a Nexus being into
Hmm.
the MCU. Because I don't know, it's just her journey within that has just been one that I've been fascinated by, and especially how they've translated it. Obviously, I'm much more familiar. Like, the comic books that I've read are more so like the Spider-Man threads and such, with some interlinking between the Avengers and their interactions with all the other characters and such. But yeah, I need to brush up a little bit more on her specific engagements with like the Darkhold and such. I know that like from the break
Mm,
that I've seen about her involvement with mutants and such,
hmm
it's just been fascinating to see the facets of her character and her growth and like what led her to make certain decisions based on her own experiences and such. But again, it's
hmm
that relatability of, you know, something tragic happens to you. How do you pick up and go from there? Like what path, what
Right.
decision, what choice do you make? And it's interesting as this, you know, as we've said already about Spider-Man and Wanda kind of seeing where they both took their own experience and such. I think almost we could say probably about any character, but those are the two that really stick out, at least to me. And it sounds like we're in agreement on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at least with the MCU storyline, it was all with good intentions. She just wanted to be with her family again. I mean, who can't relate to that? So,
Right, right. With multimedia, I'm gonna say that I've seen everything in the MCU, and it's really hard for
yeah.
me to pick what a favorite has been. But out of the ones that I've seen so far, and in currently of recording this, I love WandaVision, the show, and
So much.
it's so good.
So
Um,
good.
and I love Avengers Endgame as like one of the main films.
Mm,
Like that one, I still get, you know, curious.
hmm
I watch the ending and such, but I wanted to say the first that like WandaVision is like the number one pick for me at the moment, but I'm really excited for what's coming down the pipeline. But I'm curious to know what's some of your favorite multimedia.
Well, I think their TV series, they're really landing strong. Like I was a little bit skeptical at first, but then I saw WandaVision and I was just like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And it's great because you actually get more from a series than rather than like a 2 to 3 hour film. It just makes sense. It should feel like it should always have been this way, but it wouldn't have had that big of an impact if it wasn't, a blockbuster film. So I definitely don't want those to go away. I need those too. But yeah, definitely WandaVision. I really also liked Loki. Yeah, probably I would say it's a toss up between Endgame and Infinity War. Those two
Mm-hmm.
movies. Or no, I changed my mind. It's Captain America Civil War.
Really? Okay, okay.
Yeah, because it was the first glimpse into Peter Parker, and I love him. So yeah,
I
I
definitely
love that movie.
I definitely see that because that was like his first introduction, right? I believe into the
In the
MCU. Yeah.
MCU.
Mm-hmm. Well, to wrap up with Marvel, what specific future content are you the most excited for right now? We're not filming, we're recording this in March, early March right now. What are you excited for coming down the pipeline?
I want to see more Kang. I'm rewatching Loki right now just so I can see what is like what the 1 or 2 episodes at the end where you get He Who Remains. I just want to see him again. I'm so perplexed by his character, where he comes from, because he is very charismatic and he draws you in, but there's something dark within there, and I don't know what it is. And because I don't read the comic books, I don't want to be spoiled by it, but I'm like, I need more content. Come on.
I very much hear you on that, just because having seen the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, it is interesting to see again, no spoilers here for anybody listening, but it's interesting to see how things are tied together and all the little Easter eggs that they're pulling with that. So
hmm
I might watch rewatch Loki as well, just because it is such an amazing show, and I am excited to see what they do with Kang. As far
hmm
as specifically announced content that I'm excited about, I'm super hyped for the new Daredevil series and
Yeah.
also for the new Fantastic Four film. So my hope is
hmm
with Fantastic Four, I loved that. Okay, if anybody here has seen Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, like, you know, it's been out for a while, at least almost a year now, I think, a year in May or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
John Krasinski plays Mr. Fantastic, I believe, and
Mm-hmm.
they were saying that it was more like fan service that he was there because he just looks the part really well. But that he's like not gonna be in the new movie. And I'm like, okay, come on, please, like just let him be in the new movie. Because him and his wife would be absolutely amazing. Emily Blunt. Oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
they would be so good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm really excited for Daredevil specifically because I love that they're bringing back the original Netflix character to play
Yeah.
him. I loved like the Jessica Jones series on.
So much. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So I'm just like, I'm excited. It's like a 22 episode series, which I'm hoping that it's a good run, that it's not just very drawn out as a lot of television sometimes can be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. Oh, so good. There's so much content to look forward to. That's why I love this universe.
I'm so excited for this next section, Star Wars, just because I absolutely love Star Wars so much. And when did you first like experience Star Wars?
I couldn't really tell you like a specific time. Just it was always there, always present in my life. My older brother had a couple of pop-up books from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi that I would just always play with. I always loved pretending to be Princess Leia and run out around in a white dress with earmuffs and a pretend blaster. But I didn't really start to explore Star Wars until The Phantom Menace came out. And unpopular opinion, I know those prequels were an obsession of mine.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I know. I am like Jar Jar Binks aside, like, I just loved that it very much felt linear, like a very parallel experience to the original trilogy, except that it was bigger because they were expanding into the universe before the Empire was a thing, and then you saw Coruscant and what how the democracy was handled from all the planets and all the beings, and I just yeah. I loved seeing that expanse and then seeing more action because it was in a time where you could, achieve more with CGI. Oh my God, the costumes. Queen Amidala with those headdresses and those garbs, like, oh my God, I wanted to be a costume designer when I was really young, and that movie like blew my mind.
I love that. I remember you sharing with me that you had like experience in the fashion industry and just how important that is to you. And I love how that was a source of inspiration. And I wholeheartely agree with you. Her outfits were just immaculately designed. I really
So beautiful.
appreciate exactly. I appreciate the level of detail and just time and effort that they really put into not only her outfits, but all the other like
Hmm.
creating a universe takes so
Hmm.
much. And I think a huge aspect of it is the continuity between how people appear and their dress and their how it relates to like whatever planet they're from, their culture and everything. And that's
Hmm.
not easy if you've got like multiple cultures, multiple planets.
Hmm.
Along that same note, when I first started to explore Star Wars, I like my family had always been a huge fan of the original trilogy, and
Hmm.
we even had them on like giant laser discs, like giant
Oh
DVDs
my God.
essentially. So I remember watching those where I had to like flip the laser disc midway through the film. I remember vaguely going to see Phantom Menace in theaters, but my family was not super into the new three films, like the one, two, and
Yeah,
three.
yeah.
But I was still kind of fascinated by it because
Hmm.
I love the movie Attack of the Clones, and I think it's Revenge of the Sith is after that.
Hmm.
And that time period between those two always fascinated me. And to give some context, like, I've seen all of the major like trilogies and such, and all the other subsequent movies and TV shows during the pandemic.
Hmm.
And so it was kind of nice to now have a kind of like a full experience within all of like the cinematic and film and such. But I think why it's so important to me, and why it strikes like a certain chord is just and I'll probably go into this a little bit further down the road, is just the balance of good and evil. I think there was an
Hmm.
interview with, I think it was George Lucas. I don't remember. I want to have to find this somewhere, but I remember hearing somewhere that George Lucas was telling either the writers or producers or somebody who was just like kind of like carrying the torch. I don't know if it was who's currently producing a lot of the content now. I think it's Filoni, I think. Dave Filoni, I think. I think I might be butchering the name.
Remember.
I know John Favreau is also being very involved in it,
Yeah.
but George Lucas was saying like there's always a struggle between good and evil,
Hmm.
and finding where there's that balance of like letting good win, letting evil win, letting good win again, and kind of like that back and forth. You'll always have a great story because there's always going to be that struggle within the world. And I think that's just like in a way I approach life these days, is that there will like we can never fully expunge out evil, and good will never go away either. It's just like one maybe in more balance than the other at certain points in time. But um
Right.
yeah,
You
that's
can't
my
have
thought.
one without the other, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's definitely true. And yeah, I just love how the genre mashup that Lucas envisioned. So it's like old time Western meets future interplanetary galaxy filled with variety of life forms, and the Jedi are, inspired by samurai. I'm like, it's so creative. And just building everything on top of that, you really do have it, a master in storytelling that people can really get inspired by. And like that's just the whole point of this, right? Like we as consumers, look at these universes and just our creative minds like find inspiration from them and just like, okay, I'm gonna write a short story about this, or I'm gonna start, building my own comics from this, or I'm gonna, do a whole Star Wars inspired wardrobe, and or there's like a lot of creativity that comes from it, and I love like all the fan inspired stuff too. And this is probably not, old anything, outlandish, but in my head the sequel trilogy is not canon. I I liked The Force Awakens. That was, nice to see new material, but the whole premise of the chosen one and just taking that and throwing it out the window because the empire never went away. I,
Mm,
I mean, and now they have a planet-sized Death Star, and like, I don't really understand why they couldn't have done anything else. Like instead of the Empire, maybe there was an unknown, larger threat from another galaxy. Maybe they had a different version of the Force and harness their power differently than the Jedi and the Sith. Maybe just something to expand on the universe that already exists instead of, just telling the same story, the same threat, the same antagonist, but different generation.
hmm hmm That coincides with a point I want to make, is that you're so right. Like I feel like we're stuck in this Skywalker saga essentially.
Ugh,
As much as
over
it's
it.
been, yeah, as much as I've enjoyed, most of the content for sure, I really wish they would kind of move on from
Yeah.
like this. I wish they would move to maybe like the Old Republic or something entirely different, and just like you could still have Jedi, you could still have Sith, but just like, I mean, the online video game, I think it's called the Old Republic.
Fallen Order.
Oh yeah, or I think so.
Oh, or there's another one, right? Or a few.
There's
I'm
a
not a
few.
gamer.
But like it's not even taking place. Like some of these games don't even take place during, anywhere close to when the Skywalkers were alive or anything like
Mm,
that. So I just wish it's like there's so much content there, and I just feel like we're exactly what you're saying. We're kind of stuck retelling these similar stories, or at least within this specific timeline. I feel like we are on Tatooine way too much in so many of the
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Or Tatooine like planets, right?
Yeah, I always
Yeah.
have to bring like a bottle of water anytime I watch something.
Yeah, why are there so many desert planets, and how do people survive on them besides, relying on moisture farmers?
It's called
Like, I don't get
they got a
it.
budget. They clearly got a
Yeah.
budget that they got to work with, and they're like, let's go to the nearest desert and we'll call it good. But
Yeah.
um, I wanted to mention how kind of similar with Marvel, there's like a sense of irritability within Star Wars and the quote unquote wokeness that they're experiencing, or kind of like
Mm,
a renewed focus on specifically powerful women in heroine roles and such, specifically like Ahsoka, how from what I've seen and from what I've heard other people say as well, that she was really like the first powerful, well-known Jedi, while there were like others within the order and such, like having like their own show essentially, which then like it grew into a larger fandom. While Padme also was kind of like a powerful woman in her own right, seeing the differences between the two, how Padme was very much like a leader in politics and
hmm
diplomacy and such, whereas Ahsoka is very much more on like the front of the action, essentially. And
hmm
I don't know, it was interesting to see again just how people were kind of not as quick to embrace powerful women in this universe, but I feel like over time they've grown into it in a way. But I'm curious to know your thoughts on that.
I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of this, this patriarchy. I mean, like, you're going to talk about snowflakes, like, and getting a little miffed about seeing a woman kick ass or lead an entire planet, then you've got bigger problems, my friend. I don't understand. I I love seeing that. I mean, it's such an inspiration to me. And I I was only gonna almost gonna say that Padme was my favorite character from the Star Wars saga because she was a strong leader, but she also knew how to fight and she knew when to stand up for the right thing. I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
did like her little story arc with Anakin, like uh, like I have a hard time with because she looked at this like broken little boy and thought I can fix him, and that's just such an overdone antiquated trope. But I was so inspired by her, and I did watch a little bit of Clone Wars, and I do know a little bit about Ahsoka. We saw some of what she did in Mandalorian, and I am really excited to see her series, like really excited. So I don't know what the problem is with these people that are just so fragile they can't deal with strong women. It does not make sense. It just does not compute to me. And I honestly, like, if I was face to face with one of those people, I would be curious enough to like have a conversation with them about it, but probably wouldn't end well because I don't know. I have a low tolerance for intolerable people.
Girl, same. To kind of go along with what you're saying about like why she was such an inspiration to you, Padme specifically, and as one of your favorite characters, I would say that a couple of mine, if I can pick two, um, would probably be Anakin and Obi-Wan because of their
Mm,
dynamic between them. I love how Obi-Wan just has this like sense of professionalism that,
yeah.
he's very charismatic, but he's also humorous, but he's also, I don't know, kind of like all the things. Um, and Anakin, I feel like is in that same way, but more so free-spirited and kind of bends the rules to get the job done, essentially. And I don't know, it's just the dynamic between the two of them. I really, as I mentioned before, I grew to love the period between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So I watched all the shows of or the Clone Wars. I watched the movie when it
hmm
first came out in theaters back in like what, mid 2000s or something like that, late 2000s.
hmm
And I was really glad that they kicked it off into a spin-off series. And then that just has defined so much of that period. And then that has then also birthed another series, The Bad Batch, which I've been enjoying. I like the first season more than I'm liking the second season, but I still like it regardless. But have you watched The Bad Batch?
No, it's on my list. I wanna finish Clone Wars first because I've heard amazing things. I kind of like drifted away from it, but yeah, I need to go back.
I definitely recommend the Clone Wars. I will say that the first maybe 2 to 3 seasons, I would say maybe first 2 seasons, it's very kid friendly, but then as it gets into it,
Right,
it gets
yeah.
a little darker, a little bit more like serious and such. And then I definitely do recommend watching it before you watch Bad Batch because Bad Batch
Okay.
takes place like right after essentially, or like near the end of Revenge of the Sith. So it's like when
Mm,
Anakin has become Darth Vader and like
hmm
the transitional period, kind of the transitional period that we're in right now with a lot of Star Wars content. What specifically then outside of characters, like do you have a specific favorite show or favorite movie, or if it's like a favorite trilogy? But I would say maybe more specifically favorite show or movie.
I I mean, it's got to be at least the first six movies as a whole. I mean, you can't get any better than, you know, the preface of a long time ago, and then, dun, da, 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 that only really happens. You only really get those like goosebumps when you're in the movie theater and watching it. It just hits you like a ton of bricks. So it's definitely the movies. But now that I've gotten my PS5, I am going to get the Fallen Order game because I just really want to be a Jedi.
Wait, Jedi Fallen Order. Wait, that's with Cal Kestis, right?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know his name. It is Cal. I don't know what the rest of it, but it's played by oh, Monahan, what's his name?
The one from Shameless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, you've never played it?
No, I've never played it.
Girl, you're in for a trip. Oh, I just finished it for the second time and it
Oh my
is
God.
so good. Like I'm dying to get, I mean, this is a preview into what future content I'm excited for about it, but I'm so excited for the new I think it's Jedi Survivor, the
Yeah.
sequel to the game, but I'm so mad because I don't have a console that can play it. And so I need to like
Uh,
upgrade my console to potentially play it. But like it is so good. The first game is so, so good. And I might even just replay it again just because it's so fun to replay. But with favorite shows, I mean, I mentioned Clone Wars being a favorite for
mhm.
sure. I want to say Obi-Wan though, most recently, if that's like most recent
Yeah.
content. I feel like that was a lot of great fan service there, and I feel like that filled in a lot of holes. It might have made a couple like plot holes potentially from what I've like seen and people digging into it, but
hmm
I really liked how it filled kind of a gap that we hadn't seen quite yet, especially when Vader was just fresh and so full of rage
hmm
and just their engagement with each other. Like that last scene, oh, so good. I'm curious what, as I mentioned, some future content that I'm excited about. What are you excited about with Star Wars coming down the line?
So we talked about Ahsoka. I am waiting a little bit before I start The Mandalorian, but I'm really excited about that. Always loved it. And I am looking forward to convincing you to plan a trip with me to the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Oh my gosh, in Florida? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I want to go so bad. Okay, but the rooms are like so expensive.
So expensive, but listen, it's worth it because we're like part of the experience. We're on a,
I
there's
would
like
actually,
actors involved. They're not just like, hotel staff. It's actors and, they're all playing a part and you're immersed into the Star Wars universe. I mean, come on.
oh my gosh. I am actually like really so down to do that. I will say it might be a next year thing because I'm already trying
No,
to save
yeah.
up to go on a cruise by the end of this year.
Yeah.
And so, but I really want to go. And I think there's like rooms where either there's like, I don't know, you can even have up to 4 people. So if we want to get like a group
Mm,
together too, that would be kind of fun. But it might get
yeah.
crowded, but lastly, we are going to explore the world of Harry Potter, the wizarding world. I know this is Jenna's like she's super excited about this section. I will go ahead and share off the bat that I was never allowed to watch Harry Potter growing up as a kid because religiously speaking, magic and wizards and everything was not really permitted or like accepted. even tolerated. So my first time watching all of the movies, I actually still haven't read the books. I need to read the books, but my roommates found out that I hadn't seen the movies, and they, short of duct taping me to the couch, we watched a whole marathon, not like in one day, but like a week worth. We watched every movie, and I feel like I really enjoyed them, honestly. I do. I think if I had grown up with them more, I would have probably, built a stronger connection like I have with like Marvel and Star Wars and such.
How old would you say you were when you did that marathon with your friends?
Oh, this was like 2016.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm curious, like, when did you first get into the wizarding world?
So, I'd seen the first movie, because I was working at a movie theater. It was my very first job. And I could, take a break and like sneak into one of the theaters and just, sit there for a little bit and watch them. But yeah, I thought it was cute, but I wasn't really interested. But my grandmother, really close with her, she loved the books, she loved the movies. And one year for my birthday, she bought me the third book in the series, Prisoner of Azkaban. And I was like, I haven't even read the first two. And she was like, that's okay. When you're finished, just can I borrow it? Because I haven't read it yet. I'm like, oh, okay. Happy birthday to me. But no, we were really close, and we always went to the movies together. And so she even wrote like a little inscription, happy birthday inside the book. So I read the first two books, and then I read that one, and by then I was so hooked. I just kept reading and reading, and by that time I think Order of the Phoenix had just came out. I'm not sure, but so I only got to there, and then I just, kept anticipating when the next book would come out or anticipating when the next movie would come out. And by the time I got to New York, like it was my first week in New York, and if I needed a bigger sign of, being somewhere and feeling like, oh, I belong here, the Deathly Hollows book was just released, and you could not walk down the street, go into the subway, go on a bus. You could not go through the city at all without seeing at least five people holding that book in their hand or like reading it on the way to go wherever they were going. Like it was so popular. And I was like, oh, these are my people. And yeah, I found a friend that we would always go see the movies together, and we even went down to Universal Studios in Florida just to go to Harry Potter, Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley there. And it's always been really important to me because not just because it's a fun escape, but it's one of the few worlds that I get to share with, or I got to share with my grandmother, and then today now with, friends who feel similarly about it. So it holds a lot of meaning for me because of that.
I love that so much. And I love that she even inscribed like a note to you in one of the books. And that's
Yeah.
so special when you have that, like something that you can share, like a world or any sort of fantasy or magical experience. Or I love the dynamic that it's something that you both loved and something that sounds like
Yeah.
she introduced you to in a way. Because
Hmm.
your first experience was that first book, right? Like you hadn't
Yeah.
seen any of the movies prior to that. Okay, yeah. So
Oh, well, no, no, no. I watched the first movie, and it's kid friendly. So I was just kind of like, yeah, it's fine. I was a teenager. I was like, man, it's not for me. But my grandmother kept pushing me into it, and it's because of her that it's made such an impact with me.
I think that is so sweet. That makes me so happy to hear because I love when things bring people together. I love that
Yeah.
it's something that you'll always cherish because of that. There is some controversy around this specific universe, and
Hmm.
Um, I'm really saddened by this as well, just because of the things that I've seen online and how it's impacted people who love this universe. The unfortunate opinions of the author. I say
Hmm.
unfortunate because while this podcast embraces diverse perspectives and such, I don't embrace perspectives of blanketed comments and criticisms of
Hmm.
like a community without actually like getting to know someone and like who they are and why they are the way they are, kind of a thing. So
Hmm.
I'm really disheartened and saddened by those comments, but I'm curious to know, like, how has like what has your take been on the whole situation? How has it impacted your perspective of this universe?
Oh, I feel like I went through all the stages of grief. I'm still in a few stages of grief right now. I couldn't believe it at first because I didn't understand that a person who could create a universe where outcasts could find a place to call home, and where a place where justice swings in the direction of social morality, and where change is possible not only in the hearts and minds of the characters in the universe but in literal physical appearance. Like, millions of people, myself included, delved into this universe and saw a place to actually be accepted. It just feels like a betrayal of the worst kind to see not only a contradiction to these wonderful stories, but what is quite literally a front to fund, well, how I perceive it anyway, just a front to fund a movement of hate. And honestly, like, I'm in the bargaining stage of grief right now. I want to let the universe go. I want to boycott all of She Who Shall Not Be Named, you know, anything related to her, especially after this slow and inevitable demise of the Fantastic Beasts series. Even today, I'm still looking for every excuse to keep it in my life. Like, I just bought Hogwarts Legacy for many reasons, but I keep trying to reason that, if I spend $30 on this new illustrated edition, then maybe it'll be okay if I just donate $60 to Trans Lifeline. But you know, I can't keep making excuses for it. It's just ignoring the heart of the issue. I feel like there's a lot of fans who've managed to detach themselves from her and from the Wizarding world, but they should. The fan base is so big and so powerful, like the Taylor Swifties, we could just take it away from her and just say, no, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the fans now. I don't know, but the royalties will always, fund her hateful agenda. And I'm struggling with it. Really am.
Thank you for being so vulnerable in your sharing of your perspective and your opinion on that, because it is so hard when there's something that you love so much, that you've grown up with, that you've cherished, that is a binding topic and connection between you and so many other people that you love and care about. And to all of a sudden, I guess what's the phrase? When legends, like, it's like, don't meet your heroes,
Don't
or
meet your heroes. Yeah.
yeah, or when we realize that the people we think that are legends are, just human too and full of fallacies or something. I don't know. There's another phrase out there about something about heroes and legends and such too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I that is so hard to find the balance and to it's such a gray area, a gray space, because, is there a line of acceptance that people like will make their own choices and decisions and opinions? And to what extent do we then consume their content that either supports them, or, do we disavow them entirely? And, like picking between, it almost feels like picking between like lesser of two evils sometimes. And what is our conscious most comfortable with at the end of the day? Like, where's the line that we draw for ourselves? Where's the standard that we accept at the end of the day? And that's
Right.
hard. That's so hard.
Right. And it's still something that brings me joy. And I guess it's really hard to break away from, something like that. I guess there will come, I hope this doesn't happen, but maybe there will come a time where the balance is shifted and I no longer find joy in the universe because of something horrible she's done. And I really hope that doesn't happen. mostly for the community that it will impact. But I,
Mhm.
I just for now, it's I feel like I'm trying to make every excuse to say no, not yet, just a little bit longer. How does it make you feel like when you heard the news that she was firmly on the side of anti-trans, you know, movement? What were your thoughts?
Um, I think the first question I asked was like, why?
Yeah. Like, where is this coming from?
I don't know if it was you and I that had talked about this, or maybe it was somebody else that I had spoken to about this, but oftentimes when people have such a huge issue with either like a community or a specific group of people, they've often like had a bad experience that has led them to feel some type of way. Did we talk about that? I think it was either.
Yeah, I think we did at
Yeah.
work.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I am curious, like why, and if there was something in, her past that is causing her to have this opinion. And that's the thing is like I want to know, like if I could ask, I don't know how. I haven't delved too much into interviews if they've done interviews with her since her opinion came out and such, but I've seen like her comments on Twitter and everything like that. But I just really want to know why. I feel like there's a reason, and I don't feel like we've been given it because I feel like it's very shadowy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever gonna really know the reason why. Um,
Right. She's not very forthcoming with it either. It's just like these are my opinions and you're just going to have to deal with them. And I feel like she's definitely choosing not to deal with whatever pain she's holding on to. If there was something that happened, some like terrible event that happened and happened to involve a trans person, then you can't begin to heal by just bottling it up and waging war. You like, even if we did know what spurred this perspective of hers, I don't know if there's anything we could do to help her. It would certainly wouldn't make an excuse for what she's doing. But
mhm.
yeah, maybe it would help for her to begin the healing process, help for somebody to help bridge, the gap between, whatever misunderstanding she has. It breaks my heart. Her story was inspired by the Holocaust, and there are some side stories, some histories, some things that were mentioned in the series that are a little difficult to understand, but for the most part, her story was one of overcoming evil, of accepting people and, leading with your heart. And that's not what she's doing. I don't know
Mhm.
why. It doesn't make sense.
I'm glad though it sounds like those that like the ethos of what you were just sharing of overcoming evil and finding courage and to uh, being able to work through difficult situations and finding like the light like either within ourselves or within the community. I'm glad that
Mhm.
that's at least been translated well, in my opinion at least, into the books and into even though like I still need to read the books, but from the opinions I've heard from others about the books and from the movies that I have seen and the content that I have seen, I feel like it's been transferred into those fairly well to have built such a strong community. I'm grateful for that because I genuinely enjoy the characters and I genuinely enjoy the diversity amongst the characters and what they
Mhm.
bring to the story and such.
A little bit of diversity. There
A
could have
little
been more.
diversity. I would say probably like yeah, more so like and what we think about diversity and when you first hear the word diversity and such. Um
Mm,
I would say like the characteristics of the individuals,
mm,
like the nerdy, like
mhm,
orphan boy, the no like the quote unquote know-it-all girl who like
mhm.
is trying to achieve, but then like we actually realize she's striving to be included in an environment where it's frowned upon to be so knowledgeable and excel at things. You're just expected to like sit
Yeah.
down and behave kind of a thing. Or the more kind of maybe runt of the litter. And at least just thinking about the first like three characters and such. I appreciate the diverse stories that they bring
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
main children characters, or like the first.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know you've been super hyped about this game, and I
Oh
remember you texting me, be like, "I just figured out how to fly," or like,
God.
you know. So I'm curious, like, has it lived up to your expectation or your excitement as future content that's now available?
Oh yeah, so wonderful. Yeah, I got nothing done the weekend that I learned to fly, FYI. But yeah, this is a game that the fans have been wanting to exist for the past like over 20 years.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
yeah, we've been wanting an open world, concept of the wizarding world that we could just explore on our own. Like, I think you would want that with anything, any kind of universe, right? Like, you just want to live in it, right?
Hmm.
So, so this game, it was designed by fans, and you can tell that there was love poured into the game. There's so many details and Easter eggs that it's overwhelming, and it's just so well done. I mean, I'm not a gamer, so I can't really compare it to most other things. I think a lot of people have been comparing it to what's the other kind of like magic game where you're dealing with runes and you wield magic and it's open world as well, or open world RPG.
RuneScape.
No.
I played that. I think that's what it's called back in the day. I played that in like middle school. But what's the other one?
I don't know. A lot of people compare it to this other game, but
Oh, World of Warcraft.
no, a less popular game. Anyway,
Um,
I will never figure it out. And then I'll figure it out as soon as we get off this call. But yeah, so you've got Hogwarts and Hogsmeade, but then an even bigger world stretched out miles in all directions outside of that. So, the Forbidden Forest, Black Lake, you can wander, you can fly, swim, you can attend class, or you can skip class and catch magical beasts, or you can explore and develop your skills in dark magic. Like, all I ever wanted.
Oh my gosh.
It's
I'm really
wonderful.
excited to hear that because I really want to play it. But
Mhm.
I need to get a new console, which is funny that you say that you're not a gamer, but you have a PS5. And I'm just like, I'm over here and I don't even have a console that can play it, and I like to play games.
No, it's because I am an insane person. I bought the PS5 so I could play Hogwarts Legacy. That's how insane I am.
I think you're like, if you're like, if I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna go all in kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's true. Because I was gonna wait for the Switch because I do have a Switch, but that won't be until summertime. I mean, I can't wait that long. No.
Do you know what other future content is coming out? Because I know that with them wrapping up Fantastic Beasts, I think that was like the last film. Do
Yeah.
you know if there's anything else coming down the line? Because I'm not very aware at the moment.
Yeah. So I think Netflix was planning a TV series inspired by the book. So inspired by, or not inspired, but following the Harry Potter books more in close detail. But I'm not sure that is still in the running anymore. I know there is talks in general about Harry Potter and a TV series. Yeah, Fantastic Beasts is out the window. I'm kind of really not interested in seeing any more TV or movie media right now. I just don't think they've been declining for a while now, and
Mm,
I feel like she who shall not be named will try to be a part of whatever next comes along and ruin it again.
mm,
Yeah, I'm less interested in that. I'm more interested right now about game updates. These Mina Lima illustrated editions. So Mina Lima is the company that did all the graphic design for the movies. So they started doing illustrated editions of the books. And the first two books are out right now. Third one's coming in October. they're so beautiful. They're like there's some like gold leaf and the illustrations are all just so cute and kind of retro, like like Golden Book illustrations,
Hmm.
like that CMYK print.
Oh my
And
gosh.
every page has some kind of little detail about this, like about that part of the story that you're in. And then there's pages that kind of like fold out. Some of them are pop-ups, some of them are interactive. They're just so well done, well made, and they're just so beautiful. They're so cute. I can't help myself.
You'll have to send me a link to one of those pages because I really want to see how that looks and how that's going to turn out because that
Oh,
sounds
I will.
amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
I feel like, from what I'm hearing, like there's points in a universe's life or just in a content life where it's like, do we need more content from this, or can it be
Yeah.
encapsulated into what, like, here it is, here it will remain for the
Hmm.
duration of history, kind of a thing. I think that's one thing that I'm reminded of an interview that was done by, I can't remember, I think it's like E News, and they're interviewing, I think it was Raven Simone and one of the other Cheetah Girls, and this is totally like coming out of left field, but like what she had said was, or what they had asked is, do they think they'd ever do like a revival or any continuation or anything more? And
Yeah.
that was the sentiment that she gave of, you know, if they were to do some sort of revival, that it would be something a little bit different, something a little bit, not specifically like bringing them all back and such. So, and that there should be respect for this is like what it was, and just like, box it all
Hmm.
up and deliver it and keep it that way, kind of a thing. Thinking about all of these universes that we've talked about today, I often wonder, where do we then say like this is complete versus are we going to keep
Mm.
exploring this further? So it kind of sounds like, from what I'm hearing, the sentiment with the wizarding world of Harry Potter and such is like, there are certain aspects that you would like to kind of see them explore further, but it sounds like as a whole, it's like this is complete, and like to be able to, grapple with the complexities of this universe, but also still appreciating like the meaning that it has behind it for you and such, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Like, honestly, I was hoping that the continuation would happen with Fantastic Beasts series because, we got 7 books, 8 movies of following these teenagers around, and that was great. But, we heard so much else is happening outside of Hogwarts. Like, what else is happening? And then we got Newt Scamander. We got to travel to a different country and we got to see how the American wizards operate, and that was cool. But obviously there's other countries out there, there's other wizarding worlds out there. Like we were really hoping to just see that expanse.
Hmm.
It's about Fantastic Beasts, but we got a movie about Dumbledore, and you know it turned into this. I don't know, it just kind of took this wayward turn and there was no coming back from it. So if they had like kept true to, okay, this is these are movies about Newt Scamander and he's going to be traveling the world visiting all these different kinds of wizards and there's going to be magical beasts. Like I would love to see more of that. But it is what it is.
Jenna, I am so glad that I got to have you on this episode and that we got to nerd out together. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing all of your thoughts and opinions on everything. And I just am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It was so fun.
I would love to have you on the show again in the future. Hopefully, we can nerd out about any other future follow-ups. I would love to hear as you play the game. I would love to hear like maybe a review of the game or something like that. And then when you get into
Wow.
Jedi
Fallen
Fallen
Order,
Order,
yeah.
oh, okay, we
And
need
then
to have a follow-up.
I'm gonna get the second game too. But
Oh,
first game I haven't played and it's also on sale. So
oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? I we might need to do like a game day because if I don't get the new console, I'm
Yes.
definitely gonna want to play the new game and or at least just like watch you play the new game because like it looks so cool. It looks so cool.
Yeah.
Thanks again for being on the show, Jenna. And if everybody listening, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Episodes will be coming out every other week. And until then, hope you'll have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Queerly Overthinking is produced by Adam Harper and Cass Cooper. It is edited by Adam Harper with audio mixing by Necessary Outlet Productions. You can follow Queerly Overthinking on Instagram at Queerly Overthinking and find more at www.queerlyoverthinking.com.